Hello and welcome to Two Old Dogs and One New Trick, where we help you win the job search one question at a time. I'm Dan Troop, and this is John Hadley. John, for today's question, I was thinking back to a couple of videos we've done over the last 2 weeks, and we talked about how to ask for the job in the interview, and we talked about how to uncover and address any potential objections in the interview. So before I head for the door and exit the interview, I'm going to give you one last chance. Is there anything else you should do before the interview ends? What do you think?
There's absolutely one last critical thing you have to do, which is you need to find out what's the timeline, what are the next steps, when is all of this going to take place? And then I believe you should do what the best salespeople do and leave your own action step. Don't leave it to chance as to when you're going to hear back. So for instance, I say to you, so Dan, what are the next steps in the process? And you tell me, well, we're still interviewing some candidates. It'll be into next week. So now I know what the next steps are, and I already know the timeline. If you hadn't shared with me that it'd be, into next week, I would say, okay, so when do you expect to wrap that up? So now you told me it's going to be the middle of next week. So I say, great. Then what I will plan to do is to follow up with you on Friday to see where we stand. Now, notice I'm not going to ask you if I can follow through. I'm going to just state it. Now, I will respect what you tell me. If you say, no, don't call us, we'll call you. Okay. That I don't like that answer, but I might accept it. If you say, well, don't call me, call the HR representative, call the recruiter. Okay, I'm going to honor what you've said, but I'm trying to make it clear what my methodology is, that I follow through when I say I'm going to. And what I've just, if you say fine, now I mark my calendar for a week from Friday. I no longer worry next week, hey, I haven't heard from Dan yet. When am I going to hear from him? What's going on? So all these gremlins that kind of gurgle around in my brain go away, because I know, okay, I said I'm going to follow through on Friday. If I haven't heard by then, I follow through. So I can come across a little more confident. I can focus on other things. The other thing is, if I don't hear from you by next Friday, I get the opportunity to now leave you an upbeat, professional voicemail. Dan, this is John Hadley. I'm just following through on the interview we had. I am still very interested in the job, and I'd love to know where we stand. I will plan to follow up with you again Monday afternoon if I haven't heard from you by then. And so you get to see the way I go about things, that I follow up professionally, that I follow up in that positive, upbeat manner, that I do what I say I'm going to do when I say I'm going to do it, all of which are qualities that may make it more likely that I ultimately get the offer. So what do you think, Dan?
Well, I really like the way you closed out your answer there, because as you know, I see the job search like the sales cycle. So persistence, and I'm not talking about stalking, but professional persistence does pay off. And I think you'll find that in the most successful sales reps. And while I haven't seen a study on it, I suspect you would find it in the most successful job seekers as well. But for me, this really is a pretty simple question. I think you only need two things. Number one, you need the courage to ask a question. And number two, you need a pen and paper to take some notes. So when I say courage, you have to have the courage to ask the question and understand and believe in yourself that you've invested a lot of time and energy in this hiring process. Especially if you've made it to the final round, you've probably gone through at least 2 series of interviews, if not more. And you should understand that you've earned the right to ask that question, to find out how the hiring process is going to be completed and in what time frame. And exactly as you said, it's a pretty simple question. If you could just tell me, Mr. or Ms. Interviewer, once you finish this interview and any others that you have scheduled, how's the hiring process going to be finalized? What steps will you be taking, and in what time frame? And then like your point too about not asking for permission to contact them, but confirming that you are going to contact them and do so in a professional manner. I probably would lead more towards email and electronic communication than I would phone. I think in this day and age, most of us screen our phone calls, and if we don't recognize the number or it doesn't pop up from our contact list, we're not going to answer it. I really like LinkedIn in-mail messaging because it's going to pop up typically as a notification on their home screen on their phone. But it's persistence and it's courage, and again, that pen and paper taking notes. And before I forget, the reason I mentioned the pen and paper and taking notes is it gives you an opportunity to then summarize back to the interviewer. Mm-hmm. Let me just make sure I got this correct. You said it's going to take a week of meeting as a committee, and then you're going to make the final decision. So I just want to let you know I'm going to follow back up with you, in a week. And so it gives you an opportunity to restate the process and the timeline. So that's what I would add to your suggestion, John.
So that's our trick this time. Look forward to talking to you next time.